Sunrise in my eyes, my rock sweeter, meet the one I love. I don't know how, don't know why, I've been toasting all my life. Oh, it's sweeter. I've been toasting all my life.
Welcome to Phillip Island, Victoria in Australia. What a setting we have for this great sporting contest, the Little Penguin Sea to Dune race. Nervous moments always as they gather on the beach, the tension mounting, and away they go. There's the defending champion, wearing his familiar navy blue and white, great waddling style. Another pre-race favourite though, losing touch with the pack. Maybe that's why. A few too many fish in the day's feeding. There's a familiar face, Skip McIntyre, 8 times a champion back in the 90s, a very successful coach now, keeping a keen eye on proceedings. This the leading group, 1 or 2 still able to put on a show for the camera, others just ploughing straight over it. Some resorting to shortcuts. Sad that cheating has crept into this beautiful sport. The judges will have a look at that. But up at the front, the pace is relentless, closing in on those sand dunes that will offer a bed for the night. The fatigue starting to tell. Who's got the finishing kick up on the outside? What a turn of pace from that one, whichever one it is. No answer from the rest, and he takes victory. What a win. There we are, into the Burrow, building an extension with his winnings, and back tomorrow to try and defend his title here on Phillip Island.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to another night of Live Penguin TV. My name is Steven. I'm going to be your host tonight, controlling the cameras, talking about the penguins, and showing you all the best footage we have. And joining me tonight again, we have the lovely Ranger T.
Hi everybody, I'm Ranger T. I'll be checking all the questions on YouTube tonight, so if you've got any really curly questions, remember to put those in and I'll try and get Stephen to answer them on air tonight. If you're tuning in on Facebook, don't panic. We've got some wonderful rangers catching up on those questions for you over the next 24 hours. And we'll get everybody to have a bit of a guess of how many penguins came in last night, and we'll get back to you in a couple of minutes. Have fun, everybody.
Thanks, T. So that's right. Put your guesses in the comments to how many penguins you thought you saw coming in last night. Now, I do want to say a big welcome to any new viewers who are tuning into Live Penguin TV for the first time. We're here on Phillip Island. We're going to be broadcasting the penguins live into your home, wherever you may be. And our little penguins always come out about half an hour after sunset. So we know roughly when to expect the penguins to start showing up on the water's edge, and we're going to be showing them live. These are wild penguins that are coming home. They're called the little penguins because they're the world's smallest penguins. We have about 18 species of penguins on the planet. The little penguins, the smallest, is about 33 centimeters tall, roughly a foot in height, and they weigh roughly a kilogram, or just over 2 pounds. And we're just waiting for them to come home. We don't know exactly what time they come home. It is up to the penguins. They get to choose when they want to come home because they are wild animals and this is not a zoo. They are not captive. So it's a bit of a special treat here, a live show every evening since, what was it, the 25th of August we've been doing this. So it's been pretty fantastic sharing this with you. And I do want to say a big welcome back to all of our faithful watchers, our Waddle watchers who tune in almost every night to see our penguins. You may have seen some comments that say huck, huck, huck. That's the sound a penguin makes when they gather up into a large group on the ocean. And what they gather into a raft. That's a group of penguins on the ocean is called a raft of penguins. And when they're out there, the penguins, they make that sound, the huck, 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 huck. And they do that to find each other on the water. Because if you can see a group of penguins out on the water, you might notice that they sit very low down in the water. You might not be able to see each other too well, especially if there's waves all around them. They don't have a really good field of vision. But sound travels fantastically on the water, so they just huck their little hearts out and they'll be able to find each other, a bit of Marco Polo out on the ocean. Don't see any rafts right now. Maybe let us know in the comments if you can spot a raft of penguins. It looks like a dark patch on the water. It's not moving the same speed as the waves. Almost sometimes looks like an oil slick. Oh, not sure if I've seen any yet. That's all right. They will be out there. I did see some penguins earlier this night. So we know that there are some penguins coming home. I just couldn't tell you where they are right now. They've disappeared from view. But while we're waiting and we're scanning across this beautiful beach, I want to take this moment to acknowledge the country where we are viewing the penguins from, or where we're broadcasting the penguins from, I should say. And this is, Phillip Island is also known as Milal for the Bunurong. That's the traditional word, or the traditional name of the island would be Milal. So Womanjika to Milal, or welcome to Phillip Island. And I do want to take this time to acknowledge the Bunurong as the traditional custodians of the land, and pay my respects to their elders, both past, present, and emerging. And the Bunurong had been visiting Phillip Island for millennia. I couldn't tell you exactly how long, but it's been since, well, basically forever. And they've been doing really good. They've been living in harmony with the island for so long, and they know so much about the native animals and plant species around here that they're still teaching us things. It's fantastic. So we do like to work closely with the Bunurong and share their traditional knowledge when we can. I do know that the Bunurong, they used to come to Phillip Island for food, but they never ate the penguins. And I can tell you why the Bunurong didn't eat the penguins is because they are completely unpalatable. The first Europeans that came here, they wanted to hunt the seals and gather their oils centuries ago, and they thought, ooh, this is an easy to catch bird. I can catch it with my bare hands and I don't even have to break a sweat to do so. So they did that, and the Europeans, they cooked up a penguin on the barbie and they promptly threw up because they are so oily. We just possibly couldn't digest them. So it's a really good defense mechanism if you are a cute little animal, is to be absolutely revolting to humans and will probably leave you be. It's worked so pretty well for our penguins so far. Now here on Phillip Island, I think I saw a raft out here. I'm going to zoom in and see if I can spot anything. Is that a raft of penguins right there, or are my eyes deceiving me? Oh yeah, there's a few penguins out there. Lovely. So you can see a few little heads bobbing around in the water. And here on Phillip Island, we're called the Phillip Island Nature Parks here at the Penguin Parade. And we are a not-for-profit conservation organization. Oops, I've gotten a little too far to that way. There we go. And what we do is we use all of the profits we make from tourism to help fund our conservation work of protecting our little penguins and protecting all of the native species that we have here on Phillip Island. And the penguins would be one of those species, and we do a lot of really good work helping to keep their habitat safe on land. If you were visiting Phillip Island a few decades ago, you would have noticed a great big housing estate here on the penguin colony. It was called the Summerlands Housing Estate, Summerland Peninsula Housing Estate, and there was about 183 homes, I believe was the total number of houses we had in the housing estate, and these houses were located right on top of our penguins colonies. And we used to hear stories about penguins living underneath people's houses, which sounds amazing, just wasn't so great for the penguins. They had to deal with people driving their cars home at night when they were waddling about on the roads. It wasn't a very safe place for them. And one of our rangers used to own a house here on the Summerlands Peninsula. Her name is Elizabeth, and she is counting our penguins tonight. She still works here. She's been working here for decades. I just heard over the radio that she called penguins at the water's edge, and we just saw them come to the water's edge. She'll probably retract that statement now that our penguins have gone back into the water. They don't seem to be ready to come out just yet. A little bit of nervousness happening for our penguins. But I know that these guys are definitely coming home. They're committed to coming across this beach tonight. So be patient, bear with the penguins. They don't want to rush because there are predators in the daytime. And those predators may be birds of prey. They might be getting ready to go home for the night. Most of them should already be at home, but a few late night birds might be flying around looking for a last meal before they go home to roost, and our penguins would be on the menu. So our penguins are going to be cautious at the start of the night. They don't want to be too brave. They don't want to take too many unnecessary risks because these birds of prey would take them home for dinner in the worst possible sense. So you can see them here on the water's edge, just hesitating, looking around, making sure that they know where the ocean is in case they have to run back to safety. Because when a penguin is in water, they are much safer than when they are on land. Penguins are seabirds. They're excellent swimmers, and I'm sure you have seen penguins at some point in your life. They're very famous animals. You may have seen several movies about penguins, or maybe just been to the zoo and seen penguins waddling about. And when they're on land, they're not so graceful. They're quite awkward. They stumble over their own feet. They'll fall down quite a bit. So when they're in the ocean, they are very graceful. It's polar opposites almost in what they're doing. Fantastic. And if you wanted to help our little penguins here that we have on Phillip Island, you could check out a link in our description of the video. It takes you to our Penguin Foundation. That's our charity organization. And you can adopt a penguin, or you can actually adopt any animal that you want that we have here on Phillip Island. You can adopt an eastern barred bandicoot, koala. You can adopt lots of animals. It's a symbolic adoption, but the money that you do donate to our charity goes back into protecting our local wildlife here. So even if you're unable to come see our penguins, you can definitely still help them out if you want to.
And Stephen, our visitors can also purchase a range of items like our dress penguins from our shop, so you can see that link on our Facebook page as well.
Fantastic. T has just rejoined the retail team, so she's getting her salesman face on again. I love it, but you can, if you want to get one of our cute plushies, you can buy them on the retail. Well, maybe there's several items on the retail page. I can't remember what's listed or not, but have a look if you're curious. And you want to get your orders in for Christmas, you'll need to do that before December 12th. I believe that's our cutoff for mailing it out. So yeah, nice little cute Christmas presents to go around. It's that time of year, December 1st here in Australia. And it's pretty exciting for us. We do love a good summery Christmas down here. And for any of you viewing from the Northern Hemisphere, our summer is our Christmas season. So everybody's out on the beach enjoying our beautiful 30-degree weathers. Not so often here on Phillip Island. We'll be happy to get maybe 25 degrees around Christmas time, but perfectly warm enough to be on the beach and having a lot of fun in the surf. just like our penguins seem to be doing all across the beach here. We got another big group in the distance. Now this pathway would be, that's the one that's going underneath our skybox. I might zoom out and show you our skybox. Didn't talk about it too much tonight. Let me go, where is the zoom? There we go. So over here's our two general viewing stands. We got quite a few people on our stands again tonight. And that white building above the two stands and to the left, that is our skybox. That's where Elizabeth is going to be, and she's going to be counting our penguins from there. And she's going to have a pair of binoculars, and she's going to be looking across the beach, counting every single penguin that crosses. We've been counting our penguins this way since 1968. It's a bit old school way to count the penguins. There is better technology to get a bit more of an accurate count because we are prone to human error when we're counting penguins. We are very good at getting a really close estimate to how many penguins cross the beach. But last night, how many penguins did we have last night, T?
We had 1,012 penguins last night.
1,012 penguins last night. I don't know if anybody had a close guess on the comments tonight, but 1,000 penguins.
Diane picked the closest at 1,200.
Diane with a guess of around 1,200, a good guess. But it's not easy to count our penguins. I mean, you could look at this group right here, and if you take some time, you'll get an exact number on them. And for our rangers here, this wouldn't be a problem at all. We'd be able to count those penguins, no worries, and move on to the next group. But when you get a group of 200 or 300 penguins in a single group, then it gets a little bit tricky to be 100% accurate. But Elizabeth, she's our most experienced counter. I trust her counts more than I trust my own. I sometimes am lucky enough to be counting the penguins. It's a fun job, but it can be a little stressful from time to time. I'll move back to these lovely penguins over here. And these are the ones that we're going to be interested in, the ones on this pathway. This is our Penguins Plus pathway. So if you are thinking of coming to see us, or to see our penguins more than us, I recommend buying the Penguins Plus tickets. They're a little more expensive, but we do get more of the penguins coming up on this one pathway. On the general viewing stands, there's 3 pathways that they get, but each pathway you might get 5 or 10% of the total number of penguins crossing. Whereas on Penguins Plus, I think we get around 60%, maybe a bit more, crossing on this one pathway. And each stand usually only sees one pathway clearly. So this is the best place to be to see our penguins. They come up nice and close and personal, and it's a bit of a highlight when they get this close and in such large numbers. I do want to invite anybody who's watching from Queensland to come on down to Victoria. I think our borders just opened up to Queensland today, so it'll be exciting to see if anybody's visiting us from the sunny Gold Coast, Brisbane area, even Townsville, Cairns. Lots of lovely places up in Queensland that I would love to get to myself. If it wasn't for the penguins here, they kind of keep me trapped. Can never leave these penguins alone for too long. They're so much fun to watch, and they're always doing something interesting every night. How about questions? Do we have any questions about our penguins yet, T?
I do have one question. So, would the penguins get scared by humans if we were down on the beach?
Would the penguins be scared of humans if we were on the beach? Yeah, is the short answer yes. It depends where we are on the beach. Occasionally, we do extend our stands to be able to sit on the sand, and we rope off an area, and the people have to sit down very quietly and let the penguins cross without causing too much disturbance. If I was to be walking in front of those penguins above me and to the left, they would be very scared. They'd run back into the ocean because a large animal is stomping all around them, and they'd be cautious around me. They don't know if I'm a threat or not, but if I'm in an area that they've seen people in before, and they know that I'm not a threat, they've grown accustomed to my presence, or the presence of other people's, then no, they wouldn't be too frightened. But if I was to make a loud sound, or any sudden movements, it could definitely startle our penguins. Well, penguins, they don't really consider people predators. Penguins, as a native species to Australia, they actually don't have any land-based predators, any native land-based predators. So for millennia upon millennia, these penguins, they never had to worry about any animals that were running around on the ground trying to eat them. It's only in the last couple of years, couple of hundred years, when people from Europe brought over some invasive pests like foxes, which are quite devastating to penguins, and also cats. Cats can be quite a problem for our penguins, especially the feral cats. They can easily catch quite a few penguins, and cats are notoriously picky eaters. They let a lot of a penguin go to waste when they kill one. And might be a good lead in to remind anybody who does have pets at home to be responsible pet owners. If you do have a cat in your house, we always recommend that you keep your cat indoors, because even a domestic cat that's you let outside in the daytime but you bring home at night, they can kill up to 100 animals in a year. So even if you're trying to do the right thing by keeping your cats indoors at night, your little cute little cuddly kitty can still be quite a killer. That's just in their instinct. So try and keep your cats indoor, keep them safe. You never know if they're crossing roads or getting into too much mischief. They'd be a lot safer in your own house. And you get to play with them more, which is nice. Fantastic. These guys look like they're really wanting to cross the beach. And I don't think they're going to run back to the ocean. Has Elizabeth called a start yet?
Elizabeth has just declared a start.
There we go. So Elizabeth has called a start to the count. And that means that we're going to start seeing more and more groups showing up. It's not just the one group coming home tonight. There should be several. So have a guess as to how many penguins. I think Elizabeth just announced the number over the radio, but I missed it because I was talking. But have a guess as to how many penguins you think are in this first group. See if you can get a more accurate count than Elizabeth. She's quite far away from these penguins. We're able to zoom in so close that you can see their feathers. Well, maybe not that close. I'll see how close I can zoom in for you. Very close. That's as close as I can get into these penguins. It makes it a little bit easier to see them rather than when they're a couple of 100 meters away from you. And you're desperately trying to focus on them, as well as a few other waddles of penguins crossing the beach in different locations.
So, Stephen, we've
Yes.
got a couple of potential penguin counters in the mix.
Great. What were their guesses?
Jamila counted 60.
Jamila counted 60 penguins. Yeah.
And the official count from Elizabeth was 60.
There we go. Well done, Jamila. You can be one of our penguin counters. Fantastic. So they've got this one big group here. There's a few straddlers at the back that I'm not going to be able to fit on the camera without zooming out. So it is tricky to count these penguins. You can see them rushing towards the safety of the rocks here, getting ready to go on their journey home. This is just the start. Only a few of our penguins have those lucky beachfront properties right on the edge of the water. But there's a few of our penguins in this group that might have to walk almost 2 kilometers to get home. It's a long walk for them. And they'll be taking their time on their journey home. Especially with such a long walk, they don't want to exhaust themselves. They'll take their time, make sure they get home safely. Well, there's a few more penguins in the back there. I'll zoom in on them really quick. Don't know how many in this one. Bit of a small group here. Yeah, but another group's coming out. A few on the water's edge. They're not too sure if they want to come out yet at all. They might wait for a larger group to join them before they brave the beach crossing. All right, let's get back to this first group that we saw. Have they made it over the rocks? There they go. You can see a few people on the stands, excited to be here, excited to see our penguins in person. And we get a nice close view of them as well. I'm so glad I get to share this with you. Hopefully it encourages some of you to come and visit our penguins in person. Come and hear the sounds they make. Get that pungent smell that they create, especially at this time of year. Really is a fantastic experience. Oh, so our ranger on this stand is Sky. She'll come along and tell those people to grab a seat as soon as she spots them. I know a lot of you have recognized Sky. And Sky just came along and asked them already to tell them to sit down. That's great. A lot of you know Sky. She does quite fantastic live streams. She's our celebrity presenter. Whenever the news channel wants to be interviewing somebody, they want Sky because she's the one who did our very first stream where we had hundreds of thousands of viewers. It was a bit overwhelming. that first night, but she's handled it like a pro. She was born to be a celebrity. All right, I reckon these penguins might start coming around onto the highway. Let's see if we can spot them before they get around the corner. Let's see if I can spot any more. Oh, no, they're not around the corner yet. That's all right. I'll switch back to this main camera. I'll keep my eye. Oh, as soon as I swap, there they come around the corner. I knew it. And there they are, off to the races. Some of them taking their time. But I love watching them just waddle their way up to the camera. That one on the left has got a bit of a hunched posture. Feeling a little bit nervous, are you there? Maybe he's just trying to find a way to squeeze in. All right, let's see if I can get their backsides as they wander away. So these... Sorry, go ahead, T.
I've had one question that we haven't actually covered just yet.
All right.
How big are the little penguins compared to a common item like a bottle of milk?
How tall is a bottle of milk? That's a tricky question. A penguin would be a little bit shorter than a bottle of milk, I would say. No, about the same height?
About the same height.
About the same height, yep. I'm trying to think in my head.
My description is as tall as a Subway sandwich is long.
That's it, yep. So as tall as a Subway sandwich would be long. Yeah, so I like to use it when kids come to see our penguins. I say it's as long as a ruler stick. Those are about 30 centimeters long, and our penguins are roughly 33 centimeters. Another group's coming out here. Fantastic. This is wonderful. This is a much bigger group, so maybe have a guess as to how many penguins are in this group. And if Elizabeth isn't too busy, she might be able to let us know how many are coming home in this very large waddle of penguins. I do like to talk a bit about our rangers here. We do have some fantastic rangers. Elizabeth's been working here for decades. And she's probably the most knowledgeable about penguins, being that she lived in the penguin colony and she had penguins all around her house. She has thousands of stories that she loves to share with us. And she's a bit of a stickler. She gets very upset with me whenever I call a group of penguins on land a waddle of penguins. That's their unofficial grouping name. If you want to be a biologist, you just call them a group of penguins. They don't have an official grouping name on land. I find that's a little boring. I prefer calling them a waddle of penguins because it very aptly describes what they're doing as they're waddling across the beach. Fantastic. And look at them go. They're really giving a push for it. A couple of them might stumble over their feet as they start running across that last little bit, their little dash. There we go. A bit of a trip and a fall. Even across a flat surface, a penguin will trip over their own feet. Ooh. There we go. I heard Elizabeth call out over the radio. Have we had any guesses in the comments yet, T? How many penguins are in this group?
No one's really close on this group.
Oh, are they too high or too low?
Too low.
Too low. Go bigger, guys. Get some good guesses in there. We'll give you a couple of minutes, and hopefully T will nudge me and remind me to give you that number.
Oh, here we go. Cindy's the closest.
There we go.
Cindy's picked 164. And the magic number is 170.
170 penguins in that group. Fantastic. Now, Elizabeth is not afraid of going for even numbers, saying 170, 150, 200. Personally, I always feel a little bit awkward putting an exact number, not exact, a very rounded number like that. I prefer to be more exact, so I probably would have said 171 if I was Elizabeth. Make it seem like I was counting every single penguin, making sure I got them all. All right, love these guys. Oh, we got a nice group of penguins here on the highway. We'll see if we can get them nice into shot. I love this new camera we have. It's fantastic. Ooh, you guys look a little bit nervous. This group behind you should be giving you some confidence. Oh, bit of a spook there. Usually this underground viewing has lots of people inside and the penguins aren't trying to get inside. Now penguins, they love undercover areas that provide a lot of shelter, and they can see inside that underground viewing area, and they can see a nice big open area, lots of room. They want to get inside, but we don't let them in. It's not really safe for penguins to be down there. And if a penguin was to get stuck in there, they'd have a very hard time getting out. Wow, fantastic. Nice big group going on their journey home. I'm going to pop over to the hill and see our penguins wandering up this hillside. I did see some chicks over on this hillside last night. I wonder if they're still around. Haven't seen them yet. But that's all right. The chicks may have moved a little bit. They may not have come all the way out. Is that a penguin bum in there? Let me zoom in. Yeah, that's a little fluffy chick. Wonderful. All right, see if the camera can focus on this cutie. That's not too bad. All right, you can see that his adult feathers starting to come in around his beak, right on his forehead. He's got some adult feather. He's got the brown fluffy feathers all on his back. Oh, a little bit scared, a little bit nervous. That's good behavior from a young chick. Wow, shouldn't say too young. He's starting to get a little bit older, starting to come into his adolescence, I like to call it, where they really grow quickly and they start to lose their baby feathers and grow into their adult feathers. I shouldn't call it adolescence. That's very biologically inaccurate. But I always like to use a bit of analogies from time to time when I'm talking about our penguins. All right. These penguins are just preening on the rocks. And while we're watching these preening penguins, do we have any more questions, T?
Talking about penguin counting, why is it so important?
Why do we count the penguins? Why is it important that we count the penguins? What a fantastic question. So back in the 1960s when we first started our penguin study groups, we wanted to learn a few things about our penguins. And we had a few questions that were always asked. You know, do penguins mate for life? And how old do penguins live for? Were the two big questions we got asked right at the start. But the questions kept coming in and we wanted to learn more and more about penguins. And we decided to start counting our penguins coming home because we noticed that at some times of the year there were more penguins and other times there were fewer penguins. And we wanted to get some really good scientific data to help study the averages, well, over time, the averages of what our penguins were doing in the colony. And if, for example, in summer we're expecting around 1,000 penguins to come home because they're coming home to feed their chicks and we get 1,200 penguins, we think that's a good number, not a problem. We're pretty happy with that. And maybe if we're in a peak breeding season where we get 2,000 penguins coming home, and we get around that number, or maybe a bit higher or a bit lower, but roughly in that area, we think, great, our penguins are doing fine. These are the numbers we're expecting. Everything is good. But if, for example, it's the breeding season, and we're expecting over 1,000 penguins to come home, and we get 70, that's a problem. And that's happened to us in the past. Actually, it started off as a couple of hundred, and we're thinking, okay, maybe this is just an interesting number for the night. We'll keep an eye on it. And the next night, we had 150. And the night after that, we had 70, 50, 30. And the numbers were going down. And what happened was the penguins had lost their food source out in the ocean. Their pilchard is their main source of food. Well, was their main source of food. That used to comprise about 60% of their diet. And unfortunately, the fisheries had overfished the pilchards, or they brought in pilchards from Europe to farm, and these fish had a disease, and it spread into the native colonies, and the penguins weren't eating the diseased fish. So they lost 60% of their diet in a short amount of time. That's a lot of food that they lost, and they didn't have enough food to come home and feed their babies, so the numbers kept dropping and dropping because they didn't have enough food to give to their babies. And our counting gave us the insight into this. It let us know that our penguins are an indicator species, meaning that if something's going wrong with them, something's going wrong on the ocean. And we use these penguins to help figure out that it was the pilchards were being diseased. They lost that source of food from their diet. And we did some investigating, found out that the fisheries had brought in a disease into the local population. And we set some regulations in place, or we helped to set some regulations in place to help bring back the healthy species, the healthy population of pilchard back into the native species. And even though that happened back in the 90s, it's still not back to their 60% of their diet. I think we're roughly around 20% of their diet. So it's increasing, back from basically nothing to around 20%, but still not there yet. And we learned this all by counting our penguins and just noticing that their numbers weren't keeping up with what we were expecting. Very interesting question, long detailed answer. And this actually can tie into responsible pet ownership as one of the themes I want to go with tonight. If you have a cat at home, have a look as to what you're feeding your cat, because a lot of cat food has fish products in them. And the fisheries were fishing pilchards for cat food. And they didn't care if the cat food had come from a diseased fish or not. There's lower regulations of what you feed your cat. So maybe if you're looking at buying your little kitty, whatever their name might be, if you want to feed your little Sir Fluffington a lovely fish food, make sure it doesn't have pilchard in it. That'd be one of the great ways. And especially if you're in Melbourne or the local areas, maybe even in Australia, maybe avoid pilchard, because the fewer pilchard that get caught, the more are available for our penguins. Fantastic. Another really big group crossing the beach here. Hopefully their bellies are full of not only pilchard, but other fish. Maybe some squid, maybe some sea jellies. Who knows what they've been eating out in the ocean tonight? You'd have to ask Jordan or Megan, who love to talk about penguin poo, because that's how we know what penguins are eating. They get out onto the ocean, they get lots of fish home, and when they come back to land, they do their business outside their burrows. And Megan and Jordan, they love to set up little cardboard traps outside the entrance of their burrows, catch all their poo, bring it to our researchers, and they can study what our penguins are eating by what bones are left in their scat samples. If you're a biologist, poo is a very valuable tool to know all those secret things about our penguins that we wouldn't be able to know otherwise. Oh, that was a bit of a long-winded explanation for a simple question. Why do we count our penguins? But there's a good reason for it. Beyond just idle curiosity and who gets to win the penguin lottery chocolate at the end of the night. Any more great questions, T?
One question. There's some other birds that come home at night time that we can now adopt on our Penguin Foundation website called shearwaters. Do you know much about them?
Ooh, shearwater question. I've been meaning to talk about shearwaters for a while. So for those of you in Australia, especially around the Melbourne area, you probably have heard of shearwaters. They are also known as the mutton birds. Sorry, let me swap back to this camera. They're quite a big population of shearwater, short-tailed shearwaters on Phillip Island. And I think we have last number I heard was around 1.2 million, but that was about a year ago, so I couldn't tell you what the numbers are this year. And our short-tailed shearwaters have flown all the way from Alaska to have their babies here in Australia. That's a 16,000 kilometer trip. Quite a long distance for an animal that weighs less than a penguin. So these shearwaters have come back to Phillip Island and other islands around southern Victoria and Tasmania. And they've entered the breeding season. We've had their honeymoon. Their honeymoon has come to a close. And they're now back. They laid their eggs this last weekend. And shearwaters are fascinating animals because when they lay their eggs, they all lay their eggs at roughly the same time. And I mean that. They lay their eggs within a few days of each other, maybe within a week of each other. And when the eggs hatch and they grow up and the babies, the chicks are ready to fledge, they all fledge on the same day. And they all gather up into one gigantic flock of birds, and they get pushed off out over the ocean, and they fly their way up to Alaska with their parents. That's a rough first flight if you're a young chick, but they manage it because they are excellent long-distance flyers. So yes, they've come home, they've had their eggs, they've laid their eggs. Usually dad's at home with the eggs to start with, and mom's off catching lots of fish. They might change positions every week, every 10 days,
every week or so. Yep.
Yeah, roughly every week or so they'll change, and dad gets to go and fill his belly full of fish, and mom gets to sit on the eggs for a bit, and they'll swap around. All right, not seeing too many more penguins on the highway. Let's go back to the main beach. Oh, bandicoot! Look at that bandicoot bomb. Where'd you go? Come on, zoom in. Oh, you're too fast for me, cutie. We got this lovely little bandicoot here on the stream. Oh, he's way too fast. I'm struggling. Where'd he go? There he is. Off he goes. I love the bandicoots. They are the cutest animals in the world. Critically endangered. I'm sorry my zooming skills aren't up to par. Bandicoots are just too fast. I'll see if I can spot him again. Keep your eye out for any movement. But that's an eastern barred bandicoot. They are critically endangered. No, I think he's gone. Fantastic animals. They actually went extinct in the wild due to fox predation. Now, foxes, they think they're the most delicious animal in the world, and foxes are not native to Phillip Island. So when the foxes had a go for them, they disappeared off mainland Victoria and went extinct in the wild. And the only bandicoots we had left in the world were in the Melbourne Zoo. And there was about 23 or so bandicoots in the Melbourne Zoo, and the entire genetic population of eastern barred bandicoots came from 19 adults in the Melbourne Zoo. And we started up this Melbourne Zoo started up a breeding program to bring their numbers back, making sure that there wasn't too much inbreeding going on. I mean, being that there's only 19 left, obviously some inbreeding did happen, but they were making their best efforts to make sure that it wasn't too extensive, that we could spread the genetic diversity around as much as they can. And they released eastern barred bandicoots onto Phillip Island a few years ago, and they are just, well, so far, they seem to be thriving as a result here on Phillip Island, which is just fantastic news. And we got to see one live on Penguin TV. How good is that? You can tell your friends you saw a critically endangered animal on the show tonight. Even though it was a fleeting glimpse, they are quite quick, our little bandicoots. And they're very lovely. Oh, wow, nice, lovely big group. So T just let me know that we have about 5 minutes left this evening. So make sure you get any more questions you have for me tonight. I've had some really good ones, some that I've had to think about, some that are a little bit challenging. And I do appreciate those difficult questions. Test my knowledge. Because when I go back out onto the boardwalks, I get asked the same questions night after night after night. Usually by the young kids who always want to know the same things. So I love getting the really challenging ones, and I love being able to study something new if I don't know the answer. Any good questions, T?
One question from Sean. Do they make any panic sounds when they're running back into the water?
I don't believe they do make panicking sounds when they run back into the water. They don't want to draw attention to themselves. So they'll probably be a little more quiet. And penguins are actually very quiet as they are waddling on land. So if you come to our penguin parade and you see our penguins going on their journey home like these guys right here, they're not going to make any noise. They don't want to draw attention to themselves. It's only once they get back to their burrows, that's when they start singing to each other. And they don't make that hucking sound in their burrows. They make a different sound. I call it a song. It's not a great song. It's you wouldn't think of them as a beautiful singing bird if you hear our penguins. A bit of almost like a warble, a brrr kind of sound. And they sing very, very loudly for their size. So no, if they are scared, they shouldn't make any noise. Maybe you'll hear a surprise huck come from them, but that would be an unusual sound for them to make because they want to be as quiet as possible. They don't want to draw any attention in case one of the predators is maybe using their ears to try and catch them. Wow, look how many penguins are just in this group right here. Tons of preening behavior. Fantastic. I'll see if I can zoom in on them and get a better image of what they're doing. There we go. That looks pretty in focus to me. About as good as we can do with our cameras. Fantastic. Love seeing this preening behavior. Very healthy penguin behavior. They're socializing in large groups. Stopping off at the pub on their way home before they have to go and feed the chicks, maybe meet the missus or meet the husband. Both males and females do go fishing into the ocean, and both the males and the females take care of their young. It's a very equal parenting. Usually they take turns incubating the eggs, and they take turns feeding their chicks as well. I'm just going to see if I can spot any more chicks. I know we spotted a couple around here. There's a cute little fluffy bum there. Two little cute chicks. So these ones would be siblings. an adult and 2 chicks. An adult's at the bottom, I believe. That's the adult at the bottom. And 2 fluffy chicks there waiting for mom or dad to come home to feed them. Who knows? Maybe at the bottom there, that could be mom or dad. Though, not too sure about it. We'll have to see. Maybe it is an older chick. I can't really see their beak to tell you, but interesting behavior. These chicks will definitely attack mom and dad if they decide to come home. And as I said, it's the breeding season, so we are expecting more and more chicks this time of year. The eggs will be hatching any time now, and we'll soon start seeing plenty of baby penguins around. All right, we just have around a minute left, so before I do sign off for the night, I do want to remind you to donate to our Penguin Foundation if you wanted to help our penguins here. Maybe visit the online shop if you wanted to do any Christmas shopping for some loved ones who may love seeing our penguins here on Penguin Live TV. You can give them a little penguin as a gift for Christmas. And again, you can tune in tomorrow night. I'll be on tomorrow night. There will be a bit of a special guest tomorrow. Sky's going to be doing an introduction with a couple of people from the Children's First Foundation, and they'll be coming and doing a bit of an introduction, and we'll have a bit of an interview with a couple of lucky kids before Sky takes them on a personalized ranger tour down to the stands, and I'll take over and do the broadcast. So tune in tomorrow night. It'll be a bit of a special start. We'll start a little earlier tomorrow. We got a bit of a longer introduction with Sky, so 8:15 start is when we're going to start the countdown, and 8:25 we'll broadcast live with Sky and her friends. So tune in again tomorrow night. It should be another fantastic evening of penguins. And thank you so much for watching. All the best and have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.